Hi guys, I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. It is April 14th, 2025. As always, we are live streaming on your computer and your mobile device at Rumble, at YouTube, and at Locals. If you want to join us for the postgame show, rubinreport.locals.com. And I'm calling it right now. This is a 9-9 show. I feel sharp. I'm rested over the weekend. There's so much that I want to get to on this show today. I didn't even ask the guys what they think, what their prediction of the show is going to be. I usually do it somewhere. I'm going to usually get between a 9-2, 9-6. I'm calling a 9-9 today. Before we get to it, our shows last week on Thursday and Friday were pre-taped. And it was for good reason. I just want to catch you guys up on two kind of life and professional things. One of them, the first one's the life thing. So as you know, I busted up my knee a couple weeks ago, and a ton of you have asked me about what I was going to do. There were all sorts of tears in there. And I decided to go the stem cell route. Tony Robbins, who's become a friend and I would say mentor in some sense, connected me with really the stem cell guy, Dr. Richie Striano. And I went over to Naples on Thursday. I think we've got a couple images here of what we did. So that's me checking out. The doc is obviously looking inside and seeing where all the tears are. That's Dr. Striano right there. I was in a hyperbaric chamber after, where they force oxygen into you for about an hour. I think we've got one of the there's the some of the imaging, and you can see some of the tears. We brought the team there, and I think maybe we have one or two more. Yeah, I mean, it was a full day there. I think that was me laying on my stomach as they're getting the stem cells out of my fat in the back. My back is kind of bruised right now. But in any event, it turned out I had a whole bunch. Oh, and there I am in the hyperbaric chamber. And yes, I was watching Seinfeld while doing it. Anyway, it turned out I had like 10 or 15 tears in my knee. We injected all of them. I immediately felt like some kind of anti-inflammatory burst where my knee started feeling a little bit better. Turns out we had him look at my shoulder too. I had a much bigger rip in my shoulder than I did in my knee. So we did that as well. And I'm feeling pretty good. It's going to take some time to heal, but he thinks I could be on the court in 6 weeks. I brought the team there to not only take those pictures, but to film it, because so many people, I mean, I saw your comments in Locals and Twitter and everywhere else. People are super interested in alternative healing. The idea that you can heal yourself using stuff from your body. It was stem cells from my own fat, as opposed to taking medicine or something synthetic or having surgery, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to do a little mini doc on that. And then I had this was personally and career-wise one of the greatest moments I have ever had. On Friday in Fort Myers, we were in Naples and then jumped over to Fort Myers just a few minutes away the next day. And I interviewed a true living legend, 90-year-old Frankie Valli of Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. We got to sit down and chat about the old days and doing it 60 years after Sherry in 1962. And we talked about, he was really interested in asking me about my kids playing music and what do they do, because I showed him some videos of them dancing to some Frankie Valli songs. And it was just an absolute joy and blast. And you know, talking to someone who's 90 years old, who's got so much stuff behind them, and then still puts on a 2-hour show. And then during the show, we're almost there, and then we'll start our show. I got the shout out in the middle of the show, which was just so freaking cool. Frankie.
Oh, wow. Come on, we can do better than that, I'm sure.
Anyway, it was just one of those moments where it's I guess a long, strange ride that I've been on. But when you get to meet some people who've brought you so much joy and love, and in this case, music to your life, and it was just really wonderful. And then, of course, because Frankie does get a bit of an older crowd, once he mentioned that I was there, pretty much everyone in the stadium knew me from Fox. So it was a lot of hellos. Okay, let's get cracking here. The big thing that happened over the last couple of days, it was announced about 10 days ago, but it happened on, I think, it was talked about finally on Friday night's Real Time with Bill Maher. Bill Maher and Donald Trump met at the White House, and we have created a new bumper for our Mondays with Maher, because we always end up talking about Bill on Mondays because the show's on Friday. So we have a new Mondays with Maher bumper, and we're going to roll right into him talking a bit about what it was like to meet Donald Trump.
As you know, know, 12 days ago, I had dinner with President Trump, a dinner that was set up by my friend Kid Rock, because we share a belief that there's got to be something better than hurling insults from 3,000 miles away. And let me first say that to all the people who treated this like it was some kind of summit meeting, you're ridiculous. Okay, so meet up in person. Maybe it'll be different. Spoiler alert, it was. First good sign, before I left for the Capitol, I had my staff collect and print out this list of almost 60 different insulting epithets that the president has said about me. Things like stupid, dummy, lowlife dummy, sleazebag, sick, sad, stone cold crazy. Really a dumb guy, fired like a dog, his show is dead. There's 60. I brought this to the White House because I wanted him to sign it, which he did. Which he did with good humor. And I know as I say that, millions of liberal sphincters just tightened. Oh my God, Bill, are you gonna say something nice about him? What I'm gonna do is report exactly what happened. You decide what you think about it. And if that's not enough pure Trump hate for you, I don't give a
Okay, so we're going to show you a couple more clips of it. And actually, nothing that happened surprised me at all because, as you know, I've been working on Bill publicly and privately on this stuff for years and telling him if he just met the guy, it would be different. And actually, they have an awful lot in common. But first, I want to give Bill a huge amount of credit here. Look, going to meet the president, if anyone got a call, literally every single person watching this, everyone in this room, me, everybody, you get a call from the president, I'd like to meet you, or somebody can, make it happen so you can meet the president, you're going. Whether you hate the guy, love the guy, in between, whatever. Of course you would go, right? If I got a call from virtually any world leader today and they were like, could you come meet? I would probably go. I would try to meet them. But certainly the president of the United States, even if I had problems with him. Look, 3 weeks before Biden left the Oval Office, I was fairly critical of him. If I got a call, would you like to meet President Biden? Of course you go. That's one part. But I think the bigger part is what Bill referenced at the end about millions of people having their sphincters tighten up. His audience still largely has Trump derangement syndrome, partially because he has had Trump derangement syndrome, right? So it's great that Trump signed the 60 insults. Bill's thrown way more than 60 the other way. It's not about like sort of quantifying all of that. But the point is, it is not easy for anyone that does what Bill does for a living as a public person that tells people their opinions or does what I do to do something that goes directly against their audience. The hope is that you will be as honest as you can be and as forthright as you can be, and your audience will appreciate that. But a lot of people don't. A lot of people get what you could call audience capture, where they just kind of go where they think their audience is going. And that's sort of what turns you into a hack over time. And for whatever anyone's frustrations might be with Bill, okay, he didn't vote for Trump last time and whatever. It's like the guy is the reverse of a hack. I mean, this is a guy who scolds his own audience in the middle of the show. So, okay, so Trump signs the thing. He sees that there's some humor there. Of course, you would meet the president. They have there's, let's say, some equity when it comes to insults. And here he is opening up a bit more about some of the things that surprised him about the president.
At one point, we were walking through it is an amazing tour of the whole house. And I don't remember exactly what we were talking about, but it must have been something with the 2020 election, because I know he used the word lost. And I distinctly remember saying, wow, I never thought I'd hear you say that. He didn't get mad. He's much more self-aware than he lets on in public. Look, I get it. It doesn't matter who he is at a private dinner with a comedian. It matters who he is on the world stage. I'm just taking as a positive that this person exists, because everything I've ever not liked about him was, I swear to God, absent, at least on this night with this guy. Bob, Kid Rock, told me the night before, he said, if you want to get a word in edgewise, you're going to have to cut him off. He'll just go on. Not at all. I've had so many conversations with prominent people who are much less connected, people who don't look you in the eye, people who don't really listen because they just want to get to their next thing, people whose response to things you say just doesn't track, like, what? None of that with him. And he mostly steered the conversation to, what do you think about this? I know, your mind is blown, so's mine.
You know, interestingly, Bill, actually, your mind shouldn't be blown because you've heard from a lot of people, including me, and I don't even mean this as a criticism. I think it's great that you're sort of having this mea culpa. It is important when somebody sits down with people at dinner, when a president of the United States sits down with people at dinner and is respectful of them and is curious and thoughtful and funny and all of those things, that is exactly, and we'll get to a clip in a moment, that is exactly what I told Bill a couple of years ago happened with me when I met Donald Trump for the first time. And I was not publicly a Trump supporter at that point. And I was really on the fence. And I had been saying for a while, I need to meet the guy. I think you can learn an awful lot. Look, not everybody's going to get a private moment with the president. And there is a difference between, let's say, the public and private persona. But you got to look under the hood, and what you saw under the hood was thoughtful. As a guy that has interviewed thousands and thousands of people, right? You've been with the people that can't make eye contact. You've been with the people that want to talk over you the entire time or just want to glaze themselves or whatever else, right? And you saw something completely different, and you're acknowledging it. It's actually great. And I suspect that Donald Trump felt something similar towards you. Here's just a bit more.
The most surreal part of the whole night was when I got home. I flew back right after the dinner, and I'm in bed watching 60 Minutes from the night before. And there's Trump in one of their stories, standing at a podium in a room that looked to me like one of the rooms and places we'd just been in. And he's ranting, "Disgusting, you're a terrible person." And I'm like, who's that guy? What happened to Glinda the Good Witch? And why can't we get the guy I met to be the public guy? And I'm not saying it's our responsibility to do that. It's not. I'm just reporting exactly what I saw over 2.5 hours. I went into the mine, and that's what's down there. A crazy person doesn't live in the White House. A person who plays a crazy person on TV a lot lives there, which I know is f***ed up. It's just not as f***ed up as I thought it was.
Again, that is quite an admission. That is quite a mea culpa. And I think over time, since I've kind of been tracking this with Bill, what I think he will realize is the reason that the guy, let's say, plays crazy by his words when he's in front of the other media is because the other media treats him like crap. So he just gives it back. He can't be warm and jokey and fun and thoughtful all the time with the people that are trying to destroy him, with quite literally the people who tried to jail him, right? Because the media was working with the Democrats. So maybe that is a bit of a character on camera or behind the podium, and that's different from the guy who you met, but there's a reason for that, and I suspect that Bill knows that. It's worth noting, because this evolution, you might watch this and go, Bill's been kind of getting there. There's nothing like so amazing about this. I mean, look at this little piece that was put together online, just showing you how, well, I guess you could say it's quickly or not quickly, but let's just say how Bill has changed on this.
There ever been anyone more thin-skinned? I made a joke about his father being an orangutan once, and he marched into court with his birth certificate and sued me because he's a whiny little bitch. He said to Dana White, "You know, Bill said my father was an orangutan, and I really love my father." And I said, "Well, Mr. President, I did that because I didn't like what you were doing regarding Obama's birth origins. I thought that was low." Again, no anger, just a little smile as if to say, yeah, I get it.
If I can change and you can change, everybody can change.
Of course, that's Rocky Balboa from Rocky IV. That was on Christmas Day in Russia, in Moscow, when he beat Ivan Drago. But that's the point. Like, he's showing you Trump gets it. There's the sense of humor there. Bill has evolved. They've been through these wars, but the war that exists right now, they largely are on the same side of. And I don't know what Bill will say on his show next week or anything else, but I do know that this has been a long ride getting this guy there, and it's important. It's important because that sliver of sane liberals, who we've seen so many of them move, the Tulsis, the RFKs, et cetera, there's still a bunch that aren't moving. And for the rest of this show, we're going to be illustrating the choice that they have to make, because there's just pure craziness on one side. And then there's, well, as Bill said, a guy who maybe acts crazy in front of the camera publicly, but behind the cameras or when the cameras are off actually is very different than that. I want to show you two other clips related to sort of how I've been trying to do this with Bill because I knew that this was coming. I didn't know that it was coming. I knew that it should come. How about that? That's what she said. And here is a couple years ago, me on Real Time. This is the first time I ever met Bill in person, and we sat down. And here I am explaining that me meeting Trump for the first time at a dinner, having a chat with him, talking to him, joking with him, et cetera, et cetera. Well, it's exactly what Bill just laid out from his own experience about 2 weeks ago.
First of all, you got to break up with your boyfriend, Donald Trump. You know, you people make me laugh.
Okay, so
as if you think
so is DeSantis,
that I would even entertain the idea of joining up with a social club that made Donald Trump its president.
He says, Dad, I want you to meet Dave Rubin. Trump is sitting. He looks at me. He goes, do I recognize you? I recognize you. He goes, I said, well, I'm on Tucker a lot. Maybe you see me there. He goes, oh, okay. And then he goes, who are you? And he's talking to my husband, David. He goes, well, I'm his husband. He goes, husband? Husband? He stands up. He slaps his hands on the table. He goes, you guys are gay? He goes, you guys are gay. And then he turns to me. He goes, you know what your problem is? I said, what? He goes, your problem is you could have any chick you want, but you don't want them. You want this guy. And the point of all of that
Dave,
was,
a broken clock is right twice a day.
the point of all that, he doesn't give a shit about that. He doesn't care about any of that stuff. He likes success.
Because everything I've ever not liked about him was, I swear to God, absent, at least on this night with this guy. I never felt I had to walk on eggshells around him. And honestly, I voted for Clinton and Obama, but I would never feel comfortable talking to them the way I was able to talk with Donald Trump. So MAGA fans, don't worry. Your boy gave me nothing, just hats. Hats and a very generous amount of time and a willingness to listen and accept me as a possible friend, even though I'm not MAGA, which was the point of the dinner.
But I suspect you actually will be, although in some sense, maybe it doesn't matter if you ever fully get there or not, which is the exact same thing I've been saying about you for years, right? Because Bill, you're dealing with this stuff honestly. So if your audience actually gets there and you don't, that might just be fine. But isn't that interesting if you see what we did there with that edit? The exact thing that Bill has been talking about, his experience, is exactly what I laid out to him years ago. And I just want to show you one more on sort of how I was working on this. This was a part of what I was trying to do with this show for years, because I know how important Bill is when it comes to where the sort of mainstream liberal, not insane progressive, but true liberal position is. It's not just that there was always this feeling of Trump is this crazy person and the mean tweets and he's orange and yells and everything else. It was also somehow that he was either racist because he wanted a wall and all the rest of the stuff. So now I want to flash up to about a year and a half after I was on Club Random podcast, when I was on Real Time with Bill Maher. And we got into it about some of the other leaders on the right, but how it's connected to everything that Trump is doing.
People are feeling they are not welcome almost in their own home because immigration, these people are fighting against. So
Well, most of these people are not far right by any way that we would think of far right, in that they're racist. I actually met with Orban in Budapest, and I talked to him for a little while, and all he kept saying was, I love Hungary. That's all. I love my people. I love my country. That's it. I don't know what accent that was, but that basically.
That's a dead-on impression of
something.
Can you do his walk?
Yeah, there's a little bit of a waddle. But all of these guys, Geert Wilders, he wants Holland to be for the Dutch, right? That's what he wants. That's racist. That's what they would tell you, right?
Dutch for the Dutch. I would amend that if it was me. Dutch values.
No, Dutch values.
You don't have to be actually Dutch. You don't have to be white. That's what I think is great about America. It's the idea. As long as you subscribe to our ideas, which again, to your point and what I was saying at the end of the show, that we're not a Christian nation, that's not what it is. This is a country where we have the First Amendment, then everybody should be welcome.
No, of course, it's not about skin color, but it is about culture. So what happens is all of these people, whether they're in France or Belgium or any of the countries that you just mentioned, they're realizing, wow, we've got literally millions of people in our borders that are chanting for genocide and gas the Jews and the rest of it. And by the way, it doesn't stop with the Jews, right? I mean, they were at the Christmas tree in Times Square yesterday or 2 days ago. So people are realizing that, and they're looking for anybody, and for some reason they always come with crazy hair, that will fix some of this stuff. Okay, so you guys get the point. I think years of the culture, the American culture changing, the progressives going wacky, Trump widening what MAGA means, a new understanding that just because you want borders doesn't mean you're racist. I think all of these things have gotten Bill to get a lot closer. If Bill, let's say 3 years ago, really thought Trump was racist or was a white supremacist or something else, maybe he would have said no to that infight. But he was, over time, I mean, also on that show, I was the first one that said to him in any sort of public atmosphere that very fine people on both sides was a hoax, right? And he conceded it on that show. So the point is, and I don't want to make this about me, the point is, if you confront people with the truth about the issues, right, then they might be willing to talk to people they thought were the bad guys, Maher, Trump. And then next thing you know, you've got Bill Maher up there basically saying, we're on the same team. He didn't say he's voting for, well, I guess there'll be no more elections with Trump, although he keeps saying he wants a third term. But you get it. But now I want to show you how this actually was risky for Bill, because he could potentially be alienating his audience. He had on they had Piers Morgan on, and another panelist was this guy from the Washington Post, journalist, I guess, Josh Rogin. And he's one of these kind of guys that sounds like this, sort of that thing that all these lefties are. And here he is basically on Bill's show telling him that Trump used Bill. Like, it's the most condescending, insulting thing ever. But but once again, to Bill's credit, he let it happen on his own show. Watch.
I think you've fallen into the trap. I think I represent 99% of the internet when I say this, is that you've played the game of proximity is principle. And what people are worried about is not your motivation. We believe you. We love you, Bill. Everybody loves Bill, right? I'm not questioning your motivation. I'm questioning Trump's, okay? And if we can say that you went there in good faith, but maybe, just maybe, he wasn't there in good faith. I mean, you sold him on the Iran deal and he took it in. I mean, give me a break, okay? So the idea here is that your motivation is sound, but what's the impact? And I think a lot of people out there, fans of yours, people who love you, people who are fans of you, like me, I've been fans of you.
You don't have to patronize me, dude.
Okay.
I don't know you.
Fair enough.
I never met you.
I'm just saying that this comes from a place of love.
Not everybody has to like it.
All I'm
That's
saying
what we
is,
said. There are people who didn't want it to happen at all. You sound like one of them. It's
No,
okay.
no.
But did you hear what I said?
Yeah.
Like, what is the alternative to not talking? Just sit at your lunch table and don't talk to anybody?
I talked to him. I've interviewed Trump. Here's an interview.
That's not it. That's just not an interview. This was not an interview.
I agree with the principle of engagement. I'm just saying, from his perspective, you have to understand that people out there know, all Americans know, that for him this was a PR stunt, and in his view, you were a prop in that PR stunt.
That's Bill at his best. Try to picture any other late night comedy show where they let on a guest who basically completely goes after, in sort of the most disgusting way in some sense, because he's basically saying, Bill, you're an idiot. You were just used by that guy, as if Bill has no thoughts of his own, right? And Bill did a great job there. Don't patronize me. I don't know you. But he let him do it, right? And he had the conversation right there. And it's like, and what did he say? 99% of the internet agrees with me? Like, I don't know what, maybe you're on some other internet that I'm not on, but no. The point is, you do sit down with people, right? Like the school lunch example is the right thing. That's actually how you make friends. That's how we're going to heal this thing. But of course, this is just some Washington Post guy that you'll probably never hear of again. It doesn't really matter. Anyway, we're going to connect this to largely what's going on in the country, and we'll have a bit more from the real-time episode itself in just a second. But first, Rumble Premium. Free speech is under attack, but Rumble refuses to back down. We've always believed in empowering voices no matter how unpopular, and now we're taking that fight to the next level. When major advertisers conspired to pull their dollars, even brands like Dunkin' Donuts turned their backs, claiming Rumble had a right-wing culture. But we're not here to fit a mold, we're here to defend free expression. To strengthen this mission, we're excited to offer Rumble Premium, a completely ad-free experience with exclusive benefits for viewers and creators. You'll find exclusive content from creators like Russell Brand, Dr. Disrespect, Timcast, and the Mug Club with Crowder. It's more than a subscription, it's a stand for free speech. Your voice matters. Join Rumble Premium. For a limited time, you can get $10 off an annual plan using promo code Rubin. Visit rumble.com/premium/Rubin and claim your discount today. Together, we can turn the tide. Whether you join Rumble Premium or simply keep watching, your support helps keep free speech alive. Okay, so now I want to connect this to largely what's been happening in the media and the culture and politics and everything else. This evolution that Bill finally seems to be on, and he just needed, and I don't mean to diminish it because it's what I needed. You can definitely find videos before I met Trump personally of me saying if I could just sit down with the guy, I might have a slightly different take. But all of his stuff that's now come around, it's not just the personal stuff. It's not just this change of heart. It's also because the Democrats have gone completely insane. And when the Democrats go insane, you know what that means. That means the mainstream media is going insane because they are working together. So now let's jump over to Piers Morgan's show. Piers happened to be the other guest on Real Time, but we're going to jump over to his show for just a second. And disgraced quote unquote journalist Chuck Todd, a guy who has been a mainstream media guy forever. He's been part of all the big hoaxes. He's gotten everything wrong. He's obviously a Democrat. He's no longer the host of Meet the Press. They finally got rid of him. He's now just in one of the boxes that Piers puts up there. I go in those boxes, those 4 little boxes, and then you yell and have to own a lefty nutbag every now and again. I do it too. But that Chuck Todd has been sort of reduced to that, tells you everything you need to know about Chuck Todd. And here's Chuck Todd explaining to Piers how the mainstream media covered for Biden because they feared being perceived as helping Donald Trump.
Chuck, I just want to talk to you about the mainstream media, as Trump puts it, the legacy media in the 4 years of the Biden presidency. Specifically because, look, I'm a Brit, right? And I was living a lot of the time in the UK, but I was firing off very angry, I read them the other day, angry columns about the cognitive state of Joe Biden and his physical and cognitive ability to be president of the United States, and just wondering why on earth this was being allowed to continue. But why was the mainstream media so reluctant, it seemed to me, to go much, much harder on what everyone was seeing with their own eyes?
Well, look, I sit here and I'll defend a little bit of this in that I would argue the reason people were able to come to their own conclusion on Joe Biden is because of the media coverage. Look, we were subtle. He's using the back staircase. He's not using the front staircase. Hey, he's not doing any interviews. So there was this reluctance to draw the conclusion to say, is he not doing this? And that I agree with. That was held back a lot. But I understand the argument about the collective on that front. The only thing I can chalk it up to is this, whatever you want to call it, this fear that some members of the media had sometimes that they would be perceived as helping Trump if they somehow diminished Biden, right? That it was some sort of zero-sum game. And I think this has been the fundamental mistake that many members of the traditional press have done.
Well, Chuck, why didn't you say any of that when you were the host of Meet the Press, which used to be the most respected Sunday news show in all of America, right? And also, it's interesting, you seem to not have a problem with your friends who didn't mind if they didn't want it to be seen that they were perceived as protecting Trump, but by default, they were seen as perceived to be protecting Biden. Do you see the inherent problem there? So this is one of the things we see all the time. All of these people who are, I don't know what this is, we need a term for it. These people who get recycled through all of these things. They do a terrible job in politics and then they get a job in the media. Or they do a terrible job in the media and then they get a job in politics. Or they lie about everything and then they get, lifelong payments from the government for the rest of their lives, like Anthony Fauci. But where were you, Chuck? Now, the way I'm connecting that to what we've been talking about for the first portion of the show is that Bill, I think, also is realizing that the media lied about everything, particularly when it came to Donald Trump. Thus, maybe he's starting to rethink some of his positions. I think we have some video of Chuck Todd being a partisan hack, don't we?
Do you think there is blood on the president's hands, considering the slow response? Or is that too harsh of a criticism?
I think that's a little too harsh. I think what's happening.
Like, we don't even need to show more of that. You get that? So that's when Trump is president during COVID, and is there blood on his hands? Meanwhile, more people died of COVID under Joe Biden than Donald Trump. I'm pretty sure Chuck Todd never asked that. And if you watch the extended version of that clip, it's not even worth bludgeoning you guys with it. Biden is just a mumbling, stumbling fool, and he's looking at notes the whole time and everything else. And that's from before he was president of the United States. So the media lies, the politicians lie. Here's Lady Eyelashes, Jasmine Crockett, and after 4 years of being gaslit and told that Joe Biden is fine, look at what she's trying to pull off right here.
that no one is questioning his mental acuity or fitness to serve is beyond wild to me, right? Like the fact that they sat around, called Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe Biden, and as I said before, at least you could sleep at night because you didn't have to worry about your 401k disappearing overnight.
Absolutely pathetic. And that Muppet, what's his name again? That Muppet guy, Chris Hayes, nodding. Yeah, we should be worried about Trump's cognitive ability. Trump, who is holding press conferences in the middle of the night on Air Force One, answering every question, surrounding himself with good people, a layer of transparency we have simply never seen in government. But she's still going off on that, and that Muppet man on that televised mental institution that he nods as if it's okay. But again, Bill's now seeing all of this stuff. I think now that he has seen the real Trump, I think his ability to see through that kind of nonsense is going to get clearer and clearer. Let's jump back over to NBC, where Cory Booker, a man who 2 weeks ago did not urinate for 25 hours and should be credited as such. Here he is being asked about Trump's tariffs and the way the market bounced back. And watch what he does here. This is all they've got. They just make up nonsense with no evidence.
Do you believe that Democrats have any real evidence that anyone in the administration profited off of the president's policies and announcements, or is this just a fishing expedition?
You know, here's the problem with Donald Trump and congressional Republicans. Is our whole system was designed to have checks and balances. Now, Trump has designed an administration like none we've ever seen before. He is attacking the very agencies that are supposed to have independent oversight of these kind of actions. So we see him hiring people based upon their loyalty, not based upon their expertise. The real group that should be holding investigations and accountability and even just oversight is Congress.
But is there any evidence, Senator? Do you think there's any evidence that anyone profited off of these tariffs?
There is enough of an offense here. There's enough smoke here that should demand congressional hearings.
You mean there's no evidence that Donald Trump did what he said he was going to do on Liberation Day, which was lay out these tariffs? Then a bunch of countries come back and say, okay, we're coming to the table. The market starts freaking out a little bit because they don't know how many countries are coming back or anything else. Donald Trump the entire time is telling everybody to calm down. And I think he even put a post on Truth Social that said buy. It wasn't a secret that when markets go down, that's usually a good time to buy. That is what people do. And then they decide, enough countries have come over and are willing to negotiate, so we're going to put a 90-day pause on all of these countries except for China. But this is what you've been left with if you're on the left. You have conspiracy theories when it comes to stuff like tariffs, like that he just laid out there. It's a complete conspiracy theory that Trump secretly told his friends, guys, we're going to do this for 3 days. We're going to threaten them with tariffs and the market will crash and you guys should all buy. Like, it's just nonsense. It's utter nonsense. There might be savvy investors that could kind of read the room and we're like, boy, it does seem like if he's going to levy these taxes, the market's going to go down. And when a market does go down, that's when you buy. Somebody might have seen that. I doubt anyone knew that all these countries were going to come back immediately. What was it, about 70 countries, Bessent said, that immediately came back. Thus, the market went back up. So savvy investors did what they do. They read the room, they look around, they look at the geopolitics, they listen to the messaging, et cetera, et cetera. So Booker's just got nothing, and that is consistent with what the Democrats have. And speaking of having nothing, they still are pushing this gender lunacy. Here is trans activist Charlotte Clymer saying that science is on their side, which I'm fairly certain it isn't, but who am I?
Here's what I find ironic about all this. It's very easy to fight back on trans issues. The science is on our side. Every credible medical organization has come out and endorsed gender-affirming care and said that the trans military ban is ridiculous and unnecessary. They've said that trans women should be housed in women's prisons. I mean, these are all policies that make sense if you're willing to fight back.
No, none of those policies make sense. Can we just put an image up? I don't mean to be a dick about this, no pun intended, but if the science is on your side, Charlotte that you're looking at there is a man. I'm sorry. Now, Charlotte uses female pronouns, obviously, and has changed his name to Charlotte, and that's just fine. And if I met Charlotte and Charlotte treated me with respect, I would treat Charlotte with respect. But to say the science is on your side, you still have the same chromosomal makeup that you were born with. So you are still biologically a male. That's just how it is. Gender affirming care, these words, these dystopian words. No, it's not affirming to chop someone's nuts off. If someone walked in here and chopped my nuts off, that would not be affirming me. It would be, I would say, less than affirming, let's just say. And then, of course, that trans women should be in women's prisons. Dudes should be in women's prisons. Think about that. Think about that. Is that what you think that should be? And if you do, I would tell you to watch Orange is the New Black, because those chicks are up to some bad news over in those prisons, and I wouldn't want to subject any dude to that. So, okay, again, this is what you've got, Democrats. You've got sort of conspiracy theorists, Cory Booker. You've got like the Chuck Todds, oh, I was part of the thing, but then I had nothing to do with it. That's kind of like the Jake Tapper version. I'm going to write a book about Joe Biden's mental acuity. If only I had reported on it for 4 years. Then you have the trans activists who are still out there doing it. And then you have this absolute clown who's running his late night comedy show that people, oh, honey, would you like to go see Tim Walz do a show? He's holding these town halls. And here he is, Tim Walz, getting booed by veterans for his stolen valor.
Welcome to the Capitol. It's great that you're Sir, you're welcome to come. Let me finish. Let me finish. Oh, hey, there's some passion in the.
So look, people are just seeing through the Democrat nonsense. So let's kind of recap here. Trump now, by sitting down with someone that has been one of, if not his biggest critics in all of media for the past decade, has caused Bill Maher to have a change of heart. But it wasn't just that. The Democrats accelerated Bill's change of heart by being crazy, by putting males up on stages and saying that they were females and telling you that very fine people didn't happen and walls are racist and everything else. So the question for the Democrats right now is, which way? Will your future be more like Bill Maher, who still, as he often says, and I do believe him, still believes in all of the same liberal, truly liberal principles that he always believed in? Or do you want to go the other way, the socialist, AOC Bernie Sanders way? We'll have more on that in just a second, but first, 1775 coffee. 1775 and Rumble just teamed up to launch their first ever anti-aging coffee, and it's almost gone. They've dropped 1,000 longevity bundles, and after blowing through most of them, they've extended the sale and added a few more. But this is the final push. Once they're gone for good. For just $99, you're getting over $250 in value, including 2 bags of longevity coffee, an ultra-rare peaberry roast, and exclusive 1775 merch you won't find anywhere else. This isn't just some cheap throwaway promo roast. It's real, bold, high-quality coffee. If you believe in America, this is your coffee, and here's the kicker. Every dollar you spend is an entry to win a Cybertruck and $30,000 in cash. That's 99 entries locked in, and with less than a month left, this bundle gives you a real shot. Go to 1775coffee.com/Rubin to grab yours. Fuel up, live long, and start your morning with coffee that stands for something. All right, so if you're an old school liberal, what are old school liberal principles? You believe in individual rights. You believe in equality under the law. You believe in the light touch of government. You believe in logic and reason, that kind of thing. It's what most Americans actually fundamentally are. And then conservatives usually attach a degree of that to religious beliefs. And unfortunately, progressives saw the underbelly of soft tolerance that liberals have and then took it to really a sort of authoritarian, crazy place. But if you are a true liberal, I believe that that is something worth fighting for. And you got to figure out, does it make sense to ally with the people who are trying to burn down the country, the lefties, or maybe some of the conservatives who might have some personal beliefs that are a little different than yours, but generally like America, want to live and let live, et cetera, et cetera. So before we get to AOC and Bernie, and you clearly know which side of this they're on, I want to show you one more clip of Bill. This is Bill's Club Random podcast from this weekend. He had my friend Winston Marshall on, formerly of Mumford & Sons, who got canceled and survived and is now an outspoken, I would say, defender of true liberalism. And here they are discussing how the left or the Democrats have to decide what they are going to do with woke because it has nothing to do with liberalism.
You get a certain amount of cult followers for anything, and then the true believers never die. I mean, a lot of people would say right now the Democratic Party is still in that mode, which is going to render them possibly an irrelevant party if they don't change.
What would you like to see from the Democrats, like, going forward?
Well, much more centrism, much more get rid of the woke baggage, you know. Old school liberal is what I usually describe myself as. But that's very often the opposite of woke.
Yeah, and what you're going to find actually is that for the old school liberal who wants to smoke his weed and drink his tequila and talk to people that are different from him and everything else, you're going to be able to break bread with people like Donald Trump. You may remember, we didn't show it, we're not throwing the clip today, but maybe we'll throw to it tomorrow. There was another moment in that Club Random that I did with Bill where I said to him, where would you be more welcome? Would it be at a Trump rally? This is years ago. This is 3-4 years ago. Where would you be more welcome, at a Trump rally or an AOC rally? And he even admitted back then that he knew it would be a Trump rally. So now, speaking of AOC, she and Bernie Sanders, who seem to be the new de facto heads of the Democrat Party, right? It's not Pelosi and Schumer anymore. It's just not. They're trying to like put together the pieces. What does our revolution look like? Well, you're going to take the old school head of the revolution, the guy who used to hate millionaires, then he became a millionaire, now he hates billionaires. That's Bernie Sanders with his 3 houses. And you're going to take the girl who's basically an actress, who I don't think she believes in anything other than power and fame, and you're going to put them out on the road, and they're going to fight the oligarchy and defeat Trump because Trump's creating transparency in government. And why would you want that?
Donald Trump is not an aberration. He is the logical, inevitable conclusion of an American political system dominated by corporate and dark money. And if we are here to defeat him, we must defeat the system that created him. Money in politics is the hands of oligarchy, Los Angeles. And we are...
All right, we'll get to oligarchy and money in politics in just a second. I showed you that clip, not because she said anything so brilliant there, but because they are on the road and they are drawing crowds. And we know that the crowds that they're drawing often are bussed in and they're from unions, teachers' unions, and all these other things. That's just fine. But you can feel what they're doing. What they are really doing right now is getting ready for, because Trump has 3 years and this, he's got 3.5 years to go, but these first 2-3 months have been pretty freaking successful. They are getting ready to seed the ground for their revolution, whether that revolution is bloody or violent, likely, or just this simmering thing that they can just release whenever they want, just like they could with Antifa or BLM or the Hamas stuff. We shall see. But sometimes AOC, when she's doing one of these podcasts or doing her little Instagram things, she kind of says the quiet part out loud. And I want you to watch this clip of her talking about how the America, the greatest country in the history of the world, that would allow a dim-witted buffoon like her to become a congresswoman, that America was made to collapse. And I think you'll see where I'm going with this. It's kind of like she actually does want it to collapse.
Also, you know, the other way I think you can think about it is that we are, perhaps we are in the downfall of the broken way. This was not built to last. Inequity, injustice is not built to last. It lasts a long time. It could last hundreds of years, but ultimately it crumbles into this, a small cohort of incompetent people that create damage. And from that, something new can spring. And so maybe something is declining right now, but maybe it deserves to decline.
Oh, look at them with their edit, with the thoughtful music. Can I get some sort of, in the future when I start saying something that sounds good, but it's really meaningless, can I get some thoughtful music like that? Yeah, inequity, injustice, all those things. You see what she's saying. what she's basically telling her audience, what she's signaling to them is this thing could be done and our revolution could be right on our doorstep. It's funny, where was she during 4 years of Joe Biden? What has happened under Trump? Has inequity increased under Trump? Actually, for the few days that the stock market went down, the rich people were less rich. She should have been happy about that, but she seemingly wasn't happy about that either. Now, the person she's getting all her cues from is washed up, old, 80-something-year-old socialist Bernie Sanders, a man who, in a 40-plus year career in the Senate, has signed no major legislation, who probably has done more damage to America, maybe than any other politician in those 4 decades, because he taught he tricked a bunch of young people into thinking that jealousy and greed over what someone else has earned is good. Greed for yourself, because then you can do some stuff with your own money, that's actually kind of good. Watch Gordon Gekko in Wall Street. But when you look at someone else and you're envious of what they have, and if we could only, I want to get rid of inequality because I want what they have, so I'm going to chop them down, that is bad. Here's Bernie at his Fight the Oligarch rally, and he's not happy with Elon Musk. Elon Musk, a man who's rescuing astronauts, a man who's got people playing chess that are paraplegics and all the other stuff. He's very upset because Elon Musk is helping Donald Trump figure out where your tax dollars are through Doge.
You know, it's funny. Just yesterday, our good friend Elon Musk Mr. Musk sent out a tweet. And in essence, he said, Bernie Sanders has been talking about the growth of oligarchy year after year after year. Well, Elon, you're damn right. That's what I've been talking about. The difference is I'm no longer talking about how we're moving to oligarchy. I'm talking about how we are living today in an oligarchic form of society.
God, he's evil. Look, I know he's just an old windbag. I'm not even going to do the impression. I don't even feel like doing it right now. I know he's just an old windbag, and it's like, okay, there he is. He's been doing this forever. There's nothing new there. But tricking those young people into thinking that they're living in an oligarchy right now, in the moment that we are uncovering the fraud in our government, where we're getting more transparency in our government, it's downright evil. And if you watch that video, look at all the people. They have teachers' unions shirts behind them. They are all bussed in and coordinated. So why is he unhappy about Doge? Because Doge is showing that your tax dollars were going through USAID to all of these NGOs to fund the anti-American lefty nonsense that puts that buffoon on a stage. Now, interestingly, he says, well, Elon said that I've been saying that the United States is becoming an oligarchy for years, and now we're in it. It's funny because he didn't really say it much over the last 4 years when it was his guys in charge. He wasn't saying it. We do have a compilation of him saying it repeatedly for many, many years, except when his guys are in power.
This great country of ours is moving very rapidly in the direction of oligarchy. The United States of America today is increasingly becoming an oligarchy. More and more moving toward an oligarchy. We are moving in the direction of oligarchy. We will move even more rapidly in the direction of an oligarchy. This great country is evolving into an oligarchic society. It is called oligarchy, and that is the system we are rapidly moving toward. This is a budget that moves our country rapidly into the direction of oligarchy. A handful of billionaires are moving this entire planet toward an oligarchic society.
Start off with the bad news, which is pretty bad, and that is that under Donald Trump, this country is hurtling rapidly toward oligarchy.
Strange, Bernie. Were we in an oligarchy for the past 4 years with the man with dementia? Do you know that 83 billionaires supported Kamala Harris, the lady that you supported, who had a soft coup to get rid of that guy, and you didn't say a word about that? Only 52 supported Trump. So if we're counting billionaires, I know, Bernie, you're not great with math, but 83 billionaires supporting your guy was more than 52 supporting Trump. So you're not against billionaires, right? You're for billionaires as long as they do what you want them to do. But you're actually evil and a liar. I don't know any other way to describe you, right? Because when you're getting your way, it's all good. And when you're not, well, then we better burn down the system. Here's a great moment when Scott Bessent was being confirmed, and Bernie asked him if we're in an oligarchy, and well, Bessent had a fairly solid answer, I would say.
When you have a handful of people like Musk, who will soon be part of the Trump administration, and others, when you have 3 people owning more wealth than the bottom half of American society, when these people have enormous influence over the media, when they spend huge amounts of money in both political parties to elect candidates, what Biden said last night is we're moving toward an oligarchy. I'm asking you that question. Do you think, forget how they made their money, do you think that when so few people have so much wealth and so much economic and political power that that is an oligarchic form of society?
Well, I would note that President Biden gave the Presidential Medal of Freedom to 2 people who I think would qualify for his oligarchs. So
this is not a condemnation of any one individual.
Oh, it's not, Bernie, because you had no problem when Joe Biden strapped the Medal of Freedom. What was it? What award was it? It doesn't even matter. It wasn't George Soros. He didn't even show up. On his son, right? So you guys will take all of the dollars when it benefits you, and then you're upset when it doesn't go your way. And the real reason I'm showing you that again is to the backdrop of pick your side liberals. Bill is waking up. I think it's now he doesn't, we had to push and nudge and everything else. Now we just got to let entropy go with Bill, and he's going to take a lot of good people with him. But hopefully everyone else that is seeing through this nonsense. What has Donald Trump done in the 2.5 months or so, 3 months that he has been president? Do you know what he's done? He's made government more transparent. He's trying to cut taxes. We're trying to rein in the wars. These are all the things that Bernie talked about but never did. And Bernie, if you had a flicker of what Bill has, a flicker of integrity and honesty, you could get on board this, because you could bring actually some of your brain-broken lefty populists and show them that actually Trump is the one that has the true populist message by bringing manufacturing back to the United States, by making sure that we have fair trade deals, by lowering taxes so that people have more money in their pocket, by doing things like school choice so that kids don't grow up to be like you. But I know that would be a bridge too far. Bernie Sanders also can't get a boner, so here's an ad from Blue Chew. Fellas, let's be real. Everyone could use an extra hand. But with Blue Chew, you get an extra leg. They're the original service offering chewable tablets to help you with performance, and now they've taken it up a notch. Introducing Blue Chew Max, a powerhouse formula combining the active ingredients of Viagra and Cialis into one chewable tablet. This combo is so strong you might even have to move towns with the amount of noise you'll be making. That means fast-acting, long-lasting support when you need it most. Be ready when the moment's right. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with a licensed medical provider, and once approved, your prescription ships directly to your door, discreetly and hassle-free. No waiting rooms, no awkward conversations, no pharmacy lines. And here's the best part. We've got a special deal just for you. Try your first month of Blue Chew free when you use promo code Rubin. Just pay $5 shipping. So if you've been looking to step up your game, head on over to BlueChew.com and use promo code Rubin to get started. More confidence, better moments, delivered straight to you. For more details and important safety information, visit BlueChew.com. So as Bernie and AOC take the reins of the Democrat Party, and we watch the Demo numbers tank, they're going to have to use it. They have to use emotion. They have to make you think the oligarchs are coming, the Nazis are here, the fascists are here. We know all their tricks. But one of the things that I love is watching how the messaging permeates through the mainstream media. So the Democrats over the last 3-4 days, they absolutely got their new talking point. Their new talking point is that Trump is creating chaos. Watch this.
We begin this hour with the chaos.
The average American sees chaos. The American people see chaos.
It's total chaos. You brought chaos.
It's just complete chaos.
Unleashed an economic chaos.
They unleash chaos.
They are creating chaos.
This chaos.
There's too much chaos.
Total chaos.
that amidst the chaos,
Going to see chaos.
After seeing all the chaos,
The chaos he has unleashed on America.
Continue to see the chaos.
Economic chaos.
A lot more chaos.
Trump's chaos.
This is chaos. With such chaos.
The chaos, because of this chaos. Chaos.
All of this chaos.
Uncertainty and chaos.
Given all that chaos.
When it's chaos.
all the chaos.
Chaos and confusion grow.
It's more chaos, dysfunction.
The chaos is the purpose. The chaos is the goal.
It's chaos.
You watch something like that and you can just see right through it. It is coordinated messaging. Now, interestingly, they're right in some sense. Is there chaos? Well, when you see young people taking over college campuses and not letting kids go to school, when you see people burning down Tesla charging stations and etching swastikas into Teslas, et cetera, is there chaos? When you see that all of those people are bussed in, told that the oligarchs are here, and then you put in their mind that the bad guys are in charge and they're coming for you and they're going to deport you, what could be on the other side of that? Well, yeah, it could be chaos, and it could be, and it likely will be violence, et cetera, et cetera. We can see all of that coming, but I think it's just important to note how they do that. They're the ones that want to create chaos to make it seem like Donald Trump is bad, and they're telling you that he's the one creating the chaos. What chaos has Donald Trump caused? We have control of the border. We are getting control of our cities. Yes, the stock market did have a rough couple of days and then largely came back, and it's down, I don't know, maybe 5% of where it was before that. That's not chaos. We are trying to reorder these trade deals. But they want you to think there are bad guys everywhere, while they themselves actually are the bad guys. Here's Elizabeth Warren, a fake Indian who used her fake Indian ancestry to become a teacher at Harvard, and she's a...
The president of the United States can do something like this. It's very disturbing, it seems to me.
Jim, these are all just signs of the king, right? The king, unlimited power, and all that matters is whatever bothers him or engages him. It's not about trying to make this country work better.
But that law does not mention the power to tariff. And as you heard me also ask the Secretary of Commerce, the Constitution itself makes it clear that the power to impose duties, tariffs, lies with Congress. There's also a constitutional challenge here. Do you think the courts are going to step in here?
The courts may step in here, but we don't have to wait for the courts to step in here. Look, every Democrat is ready to go to push back and take away from the president the power he's now exercising and the chaos he's now creating. It is time for Congress right now to step into the emergency that Donald Trump has created, use our own powers, and roll back this chaos and opportunities for corruption that Donald Trump is now exploiting.
Impeachment is imminent. The filing of articles of impeachment is imminent. We are currently in a countdown to impeachment. Now, those who know me know that I wouldn't say this if I were not going to move on with it.
Yeah, good luck, champ. It's also, again, the chaos thing. What was the other line? That Elizabeth Warren is very concerned with the opportunity for corruption. We have had 2.5 months of Doge uncovering the corruption that you were part of, the corruption that took people's tax dollars, gave it to USAID, which then gave it to NGOs and all of these left-wing organizations that helped you. That's why you are so upset about this. And the chaos. And then this ridiculous Al Green, this guy. It's like, okay, congratulations. You're going to impeach Trump again. You guys did it twice. It did absolutely nothing. And then he became president again. So you don't even know. You know, it's the exact same thing. Do you remember, 6 years ago, Rashida Tlaib, the Hamas supporter, I would say Hamas member Rashida Tlaib, when she got elected, she said that she was going to then impeach Trump. That was well before any of his impeachments. She said, we'll find a way. These people are downright anti-American and evil, and they are the ones who would like to create chaos. And what do their supporters look like when they're not shooting healthcare CEOs in the middle of New York City's Times Square? Well, they're doing this kind of thing. That seems like chaos. If you're just going to spray paint and vandalize a Tesla store because you don't like that Elon Musk is helping quadriplegics play chess, why can't they condemn that? Why is it we showed you a video last week where a reporter was like, AOC, can you condemn any of the violence on the Teslas? And she couldn't even answer. This is what they want. They want chaos, they want violence, they want vandalism, they want evidence. They create the evidence to then point to the evidence that says the system isn't working, and then they say that's all Donald Trump's fault and we are the ones are going to save you. So I would say to Bill Maher, everything we've shown from these people, whether it's their protectors in the media like Chuck Todd, or whether it's the ridiculous conspiracy theorists like Cory Booker, or whether it's someone like Elizabeth Warren, who is a socialist worth, I think, $40 million. Are those the people you want to be in league with? I don't think so anymore. Or is it that you want sort of the messy but America-loving, wide tent group that MAGA and America First has created, where there are old school pot-smoking liberals like you and mushroom-eating people like Joe Rogan, and there's MMA fighters, and then you've got people who are just concerned with health like Bobby Kennedy, and then you've got people on the religious right and people who disagree on a whole bunch of stuff but love America? Or do you want people who just want to burn down Tesla factories and tell you that that's the proof that Donald Trump is creating the chaos? Of course, what we could do is just focus on real policy. That's the other thing. Donald Trump is actually getting things done, and that's what they really fear more than anything else. They never really feared that he was a racist. What they feared was he was going to get things done, and the more he gets things done, what did Trump say? That success will be his revenge. The more he gets things done, the more that things will be sort of ridiculous for them to yell about. I want to show you this video. This is the head of the U.S. Treasury, Larry Summers. He was the head of the U.S. Treasury under Bill Clinton, Larry Summers. He went on the All In podcast, and David Sachs, who I've had on the show many times, who's now our crypto and AI czar, they get into it over Trump's tariffs, and Sachs is basically making the argument that I was making weeks ago, which is it was just about negotiation and leverage. Take a look.
So let's get your take on what happened this week with these tariffs. Even the most ardent supporters of Trump have felt this is chaotic, not well executed, not communicated well. What is your take, Sachs, on how this was executed, and could this have been done better?
Well, I think what happened, if you go back to Liberation Day was only 8 days ago, it was April 2nd. If I had told you on April 1st that Donald Trump would find a way to get the entire world to eagerly embrace a 10% tariff on the American market, and not only would they not complain, but they'd actually be relieved that it was only 10%, you would have said that would be an April Fool's joke. If I had told you 8 days ago or 9 days ago that Trump would find a way to accelerate the United States' decoupling from China, which is something he's long wanted to do, and that Wall Street would basically breathe a sigh of relief over that, you would have said that there's no way that could happen. If I had told you 8 or 9 days ago that President Trump figured out a way to assert a presidential power in a way that gives America extraordinary leverage over virtually every country in the world, you would have said, well, I don't believe it. I don't, what is that power? And he proceeded to do that. And now basically every country in the world, except for China, is coming to Washington seeking to negotiate a new trade deal for the United States on better terms for the U.S.
Okay, I've got another clip here. I actually showed them to you backwards. So that is obviously Sachs laying out all of the things that Trump did that are happening right now that people literally would have never been able to believe could possibly happen, and they're fully happening right now. So now Larry Summers, again, he was head of the Treasury under Bill Clinton. He and Sachs get into it about Trump's tariffs.
If you told me any of that a few days ago, I would have believed you, and I would have thought the consequences would be a substantially deteriorated American economy and a substantially less secure
I don't think we know
United
that.
States.
I don't think we know that.
It's not any surprise. There's nothing surprising about the fact that the United States has the power to extort Lesotho. It's just, and that's the country that was singled out in the Trump formula for the highest level of protection. There is no surprise in that. There is no surprise that the United States has the capacity to isolate itself from China.
That's not who's coming to Washington right now.
It will be very, very costly.
Japan's coming to Washington. South Korea's coming to Washington.
Everybody's going to try to cut a deal.
Everyone's going to come to Washington. Then why didn't they, Larry? Do you think that all these countries were going to renegotiate their trade deals with the U.S. if President Trump asked nicely, if he said, pretty please, let's renegotiate our trade deals so you take down your trade barriers, that they would have done it? If he had said, pretty please, with a cherry on top? That's not the way these things work. He had to establish the leverage in the negotiation first. And the fact of the matter is he's the first president in decades who's been willing to do that. You don't get anywhere by just asking nicely. And I think that what President Trump did over the last 8 days is A, establish the leverage, and B, get all these countries to now want to negotiate a new trade deal with the United States.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Why is it that I got this right? Watch our shows from the last 3 weeks. Why was I not going crazy? Oh my God, tariffs, we're going to destroy everything. What did I repeatedly say? Again, I'm literally not patting myself on the back. I guess I am. But I'm not really, because it just seemed obvious. Like, do you know anything about Trump? Do you listen to Trump, or have you tracked how Trump behaves over the last decade? Or do you listen to the hysteric mainstream media people? And of course, Sachs is right. You can't get people to negotiate it. Could you just please negotiate with me? I'll be real nice. I'll give you a hand job and some ice cream. That's not what gets people to the table. Well, I guess some people would get them to the table, but not everybody, okay? Not some people would. I mean, a hand job and ice cream, it's not bad. All right, so maybe that wasn't the best example, but you get the point. You get the point. He's absolutely right. And what's beautiful about that clip, the reason I want to show you, is Larry Summers was head of the Treasury under Clinton. All of these bad deals came in under Clinton and under George W. Bush and under Barack Obama. So right there, you have him saying it to the face of the very people who created this problem in the first place. So why is it, again, like, I'm not a genius. Why is it that I somehow got the tariff situation more correct than Larry Summers and that other Ezra fool over there? It's just like these guys, they don't want to fix anything. They just want to pretend that they're nice people with their hand jobs and their ice cream. Look at this image to just prove the point of why we had to do what we did. So right now we know that 70 countries basically are coming in to negotiate these trade deals right now. And that's what the pause is about. And that's why the market came back. What this image is showing you here is 2000 up top and 2024 on the bottom. That in the old days, 2000 blue, we were exporting. The United States was exporting to all of these countries, right? Look how blue all of that worldwide map is right there. We were exporting. We used to build things and send them across the country, not just good ideas, actual physical products and technology, et cetera, et cetera. And look how it is in 2024, because 24 years, and it's really more than that, but 24 years of bad trade deals led China to now exporting and creating everything, and us all being stuck on the Chinese teat. And that's just not good. Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank, he's been hammering this home, and here he is. We played a clip a couple weeks ago of him talking about how the 124% that Trump wants on China, that's not good enough. He would go to 400%, and here he is pushing that even more.
No. Everybody knows the number one destination for the world's capital, more than 50% of it is invested in the United States of America. 49% of all consumption is in the U.S. 26.1% of world GDP is the United States. It is still the number one economy. And now if you're given the opportunity to invest in China or the United States, it's a no-brainer. Every dollar goes to the U.S. And so while the U.S. has the upper hand, and let's remember something, there's a time bomb here. For Trump, it's the midterm elections. But Xi's got a time bomb too. He's got millions of workers in factories. Right now those products are sitting on ships floating in the ocean because nobody's going to buy them because they don't have a big enough economy to consume them. Only the U.S. can do that. So we've got a little bit of a game here, a little game of chicken, because Xi only gets to stay in power if people have jobs and they can feed their families. He gets a vote every day. If those factory workers have no jobs, they're going to be like a Frankenstein with torches up at the castle. It's going to be brutal, and he knows that. So let's have this dance. Let's go now. Let's settle this now. 400% tomorrow morning to absolutely lock down zero trade until we solve this.
He's really good. There's something, one of the things that I love about people that are out there telling the truth is when you can communicate it in a way that everyone understands. Like, it's really, really simple, guys. If we stop buying Chinese crap, all of the stuff that you have in your house that comes from China, much of which we used to make here, or we could just make in other countries, whatever, that we have fairer deals with. China needs us because if they have ships with stuff and all of the products ready to roll. Those products have to be bought, otherwise they're screwed. And eventually, if those factories close in China, like our factories closed, then yes, the people with pitchforks running to the castle to be like, look at the monster you created. It's an economic Frankenstein. We don't have jobs anymore. They're not selling that crap in China. They're selling it to us at a premium. So we are now in a trade. We're in a trade war with Russia. But what happened over the last couple of days is that the worldwide market realized, oh, Trump laid out this tariff situation. 70 countries came in and said, let's negotiate. The markets go back up because everyone's like, okay, let's calm down. Let's breathe. It was just a negotiating ploy. Trump got exactly what he wants, and it's better for America because there'll be fairer trade deals. And now we're able to see the real enemy in the situation. And the real enemy is China, that has been abusing us as far as trade endlessly. Another enemy, I think you could say, is Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin went into a sovereign nation, Ukraine, took some of their territory, and there's been an endless boondoggle of a war now for 3+ years, but that may be coming to an end too. Putin met with Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, to discuss a ceasefire. All right. I don't know what they said behind closed doors, but I know that meeting with the guy and saying we've got to end this thing, there is just endless death on both sides. I mean, there were Russian drones that were blowing up in Ukraine over the weekend and 30+ people were killed, and it goes both ways, and the amount of money we're funneling into it. So things are changing. You might, if you were a decent Democrat, look at the world and be like, boy, our trade situation's getting better. Our border situation is getting better. It does look like we're wrapping up the Ukraine thing. Like, you might look at all of that and go, this is pretty good. Unfortunately, if you're AOC or Bernie, you're simply not going to do that. Of course, the other thing that we're doing is we're suddenly seeing a somewhat, not fully functional Congress. Check this out from AF Post. The House passes the SAVE Act 220 to 208, requiring proof of citizenship to vote in federal elections. What country on earth would not want people to prove that they live in that country legally to be able to vote? This is basic lowest common denominator stuff. Congratulations, Congress. You did something. Phoenix, roll with me a little bit here. Oh, I think the prompter froze. I'm going to have to do this off my notes. I'm behind on pages here. Give me a second. Okay. So now, so the SAVE Act, of course, which, as I just said, is going to require people to prove that they're citizens to vote. This is like the lowest. It's like the most base level thing you could possibly act. Here's James Carville. And James, poor James, I think I broke him when I was on Real Time with him, honestly. Here he is, and he doesn't know how old people are going to be able to vote now.
Well, let's talk. It's a massively unnecessary idea. There has been study after study, and I mean a lot of studies and good studies, to say that the amount of fraud in American elections is almost undetectable. We've looked for that forever. So you ask yourself, if an elderly person doesn't have a driver's license, or a married person takes her husband's name, which my wife chose not to, but other people do, that's people's own business. Well, they can't produce a thing saying I'm Jane Smith, because the birth certificate is Jane Jones. So the other thing is not necessary. Why are we putting another bureaucratic layer to solve a problem that doesn't exist?
Man, he's just such an old blowhard with whom it's really sad what happens to these guys that end up going that way. You know, like when you start just being all for party instead of principles. What elderly person doesn't have a driver's license? It doesn't mean they all drive, but they have some form of identification, right? Everybody does. If they go to the doctor asks to see some kind of ID with their insurance. If they get on a plane, et cetera, et cetera. This has been debunked over and over and over again. And also the idea, okay, a woman changes her name because she gets married. You still have documentation of that. Every single thing that they say is a lie. And why is it that why did 208 Democrats vote against this? Because they want illegals to vote. We know this. Elon's been hitting this. It's why they've imported they import these people. They tell these people the system's working against you, but we're the good Democrats. We'll give you the bare sustenance to live, and then you will be a Democrat for life because we just keep you right there. And by the way, you can pick all our crops because we don't want to do that. We Jasmine Crockett, we ain't going to do that. Here's Stephen Miller blasting Democrats for opposing the SAVE Act, and it's obvious why they're doing it.
The only reason, Sean, you would be against any of that is if you wanted illegal aliens to vote and to vote in incredibly large numbers. So let's just deal with all of this BS right now. Every other country in the world of any note requires an ID to vote. The notion that Democrats are pushing that married women, who, by the way, are a Republican voting demographic, cannot get ID, could be one of the dumbest talking points I have heard in my entire life. As you said, the Real ID Act creates an ID that you can get at the DMV that demonstrates you're a citizen. Democrats want illegal aliens to vote. It's why Joe Biden and his administration gave millions, we verified this now, millions with an M, of illegal aliens social security numbers. And once you have a social security number, it is incredibly easy to vote, to collect welfare, to get free government benefits, to participate in every aspect of American life. This isn't a mystery. They want illegals to steal elections, Sean.
Yeah, guys, it's just not more complicated than that. But you know what? I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I henceforth announce the Dave Rubin Fund to get Democrats who don't have ID some kind of ID. We're going to make some kind of graphic around that that's going to say that. And I'm going to put in the first $5,000. That's official. If you are a Democrat and you are too dumb or stupid or dim-witted or old, or if, they say black people can't use computers and they don't have a Staples near them or whatever, I will fund your ability to I will send, you know what, Connor, I'm tasking you with this. I'm going to send Connor to your house to take you by the arm, and you don't want to do that. All right, Joseph. Joseph will, God bless him, he's a little younger. He's still got that, I'm going to send Joseph to your house. He will take you to the proper place to get your ID, and I will fund the Uber ride. I'll even take you out for lunch if you do not have an ID. And what did I say? It's the Dave Rubin Fund for the dim-witted, dumb, dingbat, Democrat douchebag. And that's what we're going to do over there. But again, if you want to just see more of how ridiculous these people are, I shouldn't even be laughing at this one. But so you remember Laken Riley. Laken Riley was the beautiful young girl who was murdered by an illegal, about 2 years ago now. And then, of course, the House actually did pass the Laken Riley Act, which was a wonderful thing that largely got bipartisan support because illegals should not be coming in here in the first place, much less killing our young women. Democrat from Connecticut, her name is Representative Johanna Hayes. She voted for the Laken Riley Act, and now she regrets voting for the Laken Riley Act, which was just set up to protect young girls from being killed by illegals. Congratulations, lady.
As I've thought about it over the last couple months, I probably would have voted differently. It's a vote that I regret, but coming into this Congress, I trusted that this administration, we would have if they wanted to have border security, they wanted to work with Democrats, that we could actually move forward. I'm not really sure of that.
These people just have no idea what they're talking about. What do I always say? Like, they're always making you think the bad guys are the good guys and the good guys are the bad guys. We do have border security right now. This is one of the few things that got bipartisan support that actually made sense to further border security. You regret it? Like, that girl was murdered in cold blood. So now I want to connect all of this to something that also is happening outside of our borders, because as we've gotten control of our borders, we're realizing that, America is for Americans. And as I played you that clip before, it's not that America is for Americans that have to be Christian or have to be white. Obviously, we have a wonderful melting pot here, but you have to be into American culture. And American culture is based in freedom and rule of law and respecting your neighbors and a little bit of give and take. Like, it's baked into what has made America the greatest country in the history of the world for 250 years. We don't have that all over the world. So now let's jump across the pond to the UK, because the UK has unbelievably massive problems. This is this past weekend. Watch this as a series, I don't know, it's a dozen, 24 police officers in London are fleeing from a jihadist mob. So you got a lot of problems, UK. Every single one of those masked people, they are terrorism supporters. There is not one person out there who is for the Palestinians but would condemn Hamas, because they'd be strung up too and they'd be sent to be in the middle with those police officers. Actually, they'd hate them more because they would be a traitor, right? So you let terror supporters, there were British people who were killed on October 7th, you let terror supporters overrun your police. And we know this is happening repeatedly and constantly, and nobody's doing anything about it. And most likely, the good British men that might have stood up for it 20 years ago are probably getting drunk in the pub at this point because they've lost their country. This is a super interesting clip. We've played, I think, a few videos of this guy. He's a Middle East researcher from the United Arab Emirates named Amjad Taha. And here he is talking about how much worse Islamic extremism is in the UK than even in certain parts of the Gulf world, particularly the UAE. Take a look.
I think you have more extremists in UK than you have in the Middle East. The things that some of the Islamists say in various mosques, they would not be able to say it all the way in Afghanistan, for example.
So how has this been allowed to flourish in the UK?
So the Muslim Brotherhood are the radical Islamists in Small Heath, in Al Amrak, in Birmingham, and other areas. We saw their voices. It was for Hamas.
Yes.
And Hamas, it's actually the armed forces of the Muslim Brotherhood. Muslim Brotherhood in my country, for example, UAE, is banned, but however, it's not banned in the United Kingdom.
So it should be banned?
Absolutely. They use the freedom of speech to censor your right to speak against them. They use the terminology Islamophobia just to stop you from criticizing. The fact that Islamic Relief is registered as a charity here, but all the way in Saudi Arabia, in UAE, is banned because of the investigation that showed that this charity is sending money all the way to terrorist groups in the Middle East.
Yes.
It tells you a lot.
All right, so the countries that are flourishing in the Gulf, like the UAE, are banning these radicals, and yet they are flourishing in the West. And the UK, it might just be too late. You have brought in too many people. You have a prime minister who does absolutely nothing. They're using all of your good liberal ideas of tolerance and diversity against you. And yes, he made a great point about how they will basically go after you for exercising your free speech, but never them for exercising their free speech, which I would say borders on something criminal because they're often calling for violence. This video is wild. Here's just an Englishman. I don't know what this guy woke up thinking in the morning, but this is just an English bloke. And he went to one of these Hamas crazy jihadist rallies, and he's trying to, put out some pro-UK sentiment, and you're never going to guess who got arrested. All right, I don't have all the context to that. I didn't see him doing anything violent, but he's out there, basically getting people to like Britain, like British culture. You've got jihadists out there who will gladly destroy that country. You have then people, the police officers, who arrest him for he's just exercising his free speech. They've got bullhorns out there calling for jihad. They've got flags of terrorists and everything else. They're just fine to walk down the street, take over, scare people, make sure that commerce can't exist, et cetera, et cetera. So which way England, and what this really, to link this to the top of the show, which way liberals, which way people that believe in tolerance and diversity, will you be tolerant of intolerance? And if you will end up beheaded. That's pretty much how it works. Here's British police going after an elderly man because he asked somebody to speak English.
Apparently during some conversations between yourself, apparently you have alleged, we weren't here, so I don't know you've said it, but you've alleged to say, speak English, or was that effect?
Speak clearly.
Speak clearly.
No,
okay.
The gentleman's partially deaf.
Yeah, he
can
speak clearly. Yeah.
So I couldn't even hear him.
No, and that's fine, and that's why we've just come to speak, because potentially someone could perceive that as a hate crime.
So an elderly man who has a hearing problem asks someone to speak English, and that could be a hate crime. Meanwhile, you have literal Hamas supporters, Hezbollah supporters, terrorism supporters who killed British people. Again, you don't have to care about the Israelis. You don't even have to care about the Jews. They killed British citizens. They're out on the street doing just fine. You're arresting a guy walking down the street like, Britain's cool, I like the UK. He's in jail. And then you're questioning an elderly man because he asked someone to speak English. I think you've made your choice already. So which way, Western man? Well, here is a British citizen, Piers Morgan, and he was on, as I mentioned, he was on Real Time with Bill Maher on Friday night, and they got into it about some of the deportations that Trump has been doing, and I think Piers, chef kiss, nailed it.
I'm okay with that. All right, what if I was a young student at Columbia, they're on a green card, British, come in, happy to be here, do all my paperwork, get to Columbia, and I start leading a group which is a bunch of white supremacists, and we start terrorizing black students in the way that they were terrorizing Jewish students. Well, hang on. In that circumstance, would we all be as comfortable with this, or is it the reality which was exposed by the mobs at Columbia, which is that for some reason, Jews get treated differently to anybody else when it comes to this kind of thing? Because if that had been, honestly, white supremacists treating black students like that, they would be out the country in 10 minutes. In 10 minutes.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Piers, and we all know it. And yeah, and that's why these people were bright enough to make it about Jews first. They'll come for the white people next. But Trump's finally doing something about it, right? You know it. You know it. Imagine a British, just lay it out one more time real quick. British student shows up, white British student shows up to Columbia, starts getting a whole bunch of white kids to make sure that black kids can't get on campus, or the litany of other things they were doing, or taking over buildings. They would be out on their ass, and these people would all be for cheering for it. I'm for it, regardless of the skin color, regardless of the religion or the ethnicity. If you use your free speech to stop someone's freedom of movement, or stop their speech, or take over a building, or literally they held a janitor hostage, a Hispanic janitor hostage at Columbia, that's what this is about. So the point, I think, of everything on the show today, and it was big, this might be our longest show ever. The point of all of this is, it is a time right now to think about things a little bit differently. Bill Maher's thinking about things a little bit differently. There's people who are thinking the old way, right? Like Bernie and the AOCs and lefties, they're thinking about everything in the old way. We'll burn it down if we can't have exactly what we want. They'll lie about everything. They'll get everything wrong. And then there's a bunch of people thinking about things in a new way. Oh, we can have trade deals that actually make sense. We can have a border that works. We can have law and order. We can actually protect our minorities when people are infringing on their rights, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought this was a good tweet from Palantir Technologies. Listen to this. College is broken. Skip the debt, skip the indoctrination, get the Palantir degree. Admissions are based on flawed criteria. Meritocracy and excellence are no longer the pursuits of educational institutions, and chaos has ensued on university campuses. Starting today, Palantir is launching a fall fellowship for the best and brightest graduating high school students. Based solely on merit and academic excellence, students will be invited for interviews. Select applicants will receive an internship offer at Palantir. Upon completion, successful interns will be offered a full-time role. Apply today. So Palantir, if you want to know a bit more on Palantir, I had Peter Thiel on a month or two ago, and we've had Joe Lonsdale on, they talk about it. This is very in line with Peter Thiel's overall philosophy. He started the Thiel Fellowship years ago for kids that didn't want to go to college. But what do you want to do? Think about things in a new way. Whether you're the 17-year-old watching this right now and you're about to go to college, and you don't know if that college is going to completely indoctrinate you or whatever it might be, or whether you're the 42-year-old of a parent who's 16 and you're trying to figure out what you're going to do with your kid and you don't want it, like, there are alternative ways. Try that. Try the Thiel Fellowship. Try what Palantir is doing. Try not sending him to college at all. Give him a gap year. Get an internship. My executive producer was my intern. This guy, wait, you finished college. Yeah, I'm not happy about that. But the other people back there, they dropped out of college. Like, think about things in a new way. Find new allies, just as Bill Maher did, and let the bad guys go. Let the bad guys go, and that's how we'll enter the golden age. All right, I called it at the top. I'm calling it right now. It was a 9-9. We had one prompter problem. I kind of threw one clip backwards, but I'm calling it 9-9 anyway. But I leave that to you in the comments. You let me know what you think. My full interview with Douglas Murray, whose new book is out this week, is up across platforms right now. We got a post-game show in just moments. RubinReport.locals.com. Thank you for watching. We will be back tomorrow.